Please be seated. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The PS, ICT, and Digital Economy, our guest, Ms. Wendy Gonzalez, CEO of SAMA, our Acting Vice Chancellor, Dr. Margaret Hutchinson, the DVC, RIE, Professor Mula, faculty, students, esteemed guests, you're very welcome to this afternoon. We're very excited to be here and with our partners, SAMA, to just discuss one of the most transformative technologies of our time, that is generative AI. And we're very excited to be having this session. My name is Dr. Wanjiko Nganga, and I'll be the moderator for the session. I'm a faculty at the Computing and Informatics Department at the Faculty of Science and Technology, and also coordinating the Nairobi School of AI. And I can see many of my colleagues here, so we're very excited to be participating in this discussion today. Without further ado, I'm going to call upon our Dean, Professor Kerubo, who's the Dean of the Faculty of Science and Technology, to give her opening remarks and welcome the Vice Chancellor. Professor Kerubo.
Thank you very much, Daktari. Allow me to acknowledge the presence of the Principal Secretary, Ministry of Information, Communications, and Digital Economy, in charge of the State Department for ICT and the Digital Economy, Engineer John Tanui. We also have Mrs. Wendy Gonzalez, the CEO of SAMA, the Acting Vice Chancellor of the University of Nairobi, Professor Margaret Hutchinson, the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of Research, Innovation, and Enterprise, Professor Francis Mula, esteemed deans of faculties who are here today, esteemed colleagues, students, and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. May I take this opportunity to welcome you to the Faculty of Science and Technology, hosting today's public lecture that will explore the timely topic of shaping tomorrow's workforce for our digital economy. It is a privilege to be here today as we explore one of the most exciting and consequential topics of our time. Today's lecture is an opportunity to delve into how generative AI is poised to revolutionize the job market and what we as a university and a country should be doing to position ourselves to fully tap into the digital economy. As the Faculty of Science and Technology, we are aligned to the changing times and particularly to the rapid advancements in generative AI. We are currently reshaping the skills landscape and making it imperative for us to adapt our curriculum to meet these evolving demands. The Department of Computing and Informatics is in the forefront of exploring and deepening expertise in AI, algorithms, and data structures and machine learning. Similarly, the Department of Mathematics, of course, which is in one of the departments of the Faculty of Science and Technology, also is very in the forefront of ensuring that there are programs like statistical modeling, linear algebra, and computational techniques that underpin AI systems. Furthermore, given the pervasiveness of AI into various domains, of Science, we are keen to foster interdisciplinary collaboration between computer science, physics, chemistry, biology, biochemistry, and other sciences as we develop bilingual scientists who can leverage the power of computational and AI to innovatively solve various real-world scientific challenges. By culturing a deep comprehension of both the theoretical underpinning and practical applications of AI, the Faculty of Science and Technology is well-resourced and committed to equip our students to become the architects of the AI-driven future. And with those few remarks, may I now take this opportunity to welcome our esteemed acting Vice Chancellor of the University of Nairobi, Professor Margaret Hutchinson. Yes, let's clap for her to give her remarks. Thank you very much.
The Principal Secretary, Minister of Information Communication, and the Digital Economy, Engineer John Tanui, who also happens to be a friend of mine, Ms. Wendy Gonzalez, the CEO of Summer AI, distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, and our beloved students, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is with immense pleasure and joy that I extend a warm welcome to each one of you here to the University of Nairobi as we gather here today for this very, what I call pivotal seminar on generative AI, shaping tomorrow's workforce for a digital economy. Professor Kerubo has outlined in details what we are doing here at the University of Nairobi, and so I will not repeat. But just to say how we are honored to have with us what I would call a visionary leader and an innovator, Ms. Wendy Gonzalez, who I said is the CEO of Summer AI, who will share her insights on this very transformative, very timely topic for our generation and for our time. Today, we find ourselves at a critical intersection where technology continues to redefine the nature of work and also creativity. Generative AI stands out as one of the most exciting breakthroughs of our time, shaping our understanding of productivity, collaboration, and innovation. And sometimes I wish my mother lived to see this day. It not only empowers us to generate art, music, text, and design, but also compels us to reflect deeply on its implications for our workforce, our society at large. And so as we navigate this new landscape, it is essential to recognize both the vast opportunities and also the significant challenges that generative AI presents to each one of us individually and also collectively. While it offers pathways to enhance efficiency and creativity, it also raises pressing questions about job security, the future of employment as we know it, and the ethical considerations that accompany these rapidly evolving technologies. So this duality is what makes our discussions today crucial, critical, timely, as we seek to ensure that our future workforce is prepared, informed, and equipped to thrive in a digital economy, not just to survive. Here at the University of Nairobi, we deeply understand our responsibility to cultivate the talent needed to harness the potential of AI. Through the establishment of the Nairobi School of AI, through the initiative of our Chancellor, Professor Patrick, we are committed to integrating AI training, research, and innovation solutions across all disciplines in the University of Nairobi. And as you are aware, the University of Nairobi actually cuts across. Being the oldest university in Kenya, we have the entire landscape of learning, whether it's the Faculty of Agriculture, Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, Faculty of the Built Environment and Design, Faculty of Engineering, Faculty of Education, Faculty of Law, Faculty of Science and Technology, where this generative AI is going to be housed for further elaboration, with the Veterinary Medicine, Faculty of Health Sciences. All of us together, we are saying we want to see how both learning, research, and also innovative solutions can be found across the entire sectors of the economy. Our strategic approach emphasizes the importance of equipping students with both technical skills and critical soft skills, fostering a generation capable of tackling the complex challenges over time. Recognizing that AI transcends traditional boundaries, we are excited to announce that this academic year we will offer AI literacy courses for all our students as a common course. I thought you'd be clapping there. These classes will empower learners from diverse fields to understand and engage with AI technologies, preparing them to be thoughtful contributors to society and also ethical stewards of AI in their future professions. While some may grapple with the fears about job displacement, I urge our academic community, especially our researchers and thought leaders, to clarify misconceptions and to demystify the evolving narrative around AI. It is through informed discourse that we can assuage fears and identify opportunities presented by these groundbreaking technologies. As the saying goes, if you want to go quickly, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with others. And so the University of Nairobi is where it is because we value, we cherish, we nurture, and we actually strengthen partnerships that we have cultivated over the years. And we are proud to collaborate with Summer AI, as I was suggesting, as a strategic partner to address the skills gap in the industry. I'm delighted to share that through our partnership, over 20 of our literature linguistic graduates have recently secured employment at Summer AI, marking a significant step towards preparing our students for the changing demands of the workforce. I wasn't sure whether there's 20 or 13, but we are the majority of the students who have been taken by the Summer AI, and we are very, very grateful. In closing, I want to express my gratitude to all of you for being here today and for your commitment to pushing the boundaries of knowledge and collaborations. Now, it is with my distinct honor, pleasure, and gladness to welcome the Principal Secretary, Engineer John Tanui, to address us. I want to thank you for your kind attention. Na Mungu awabariki.
The Vice Chancellor of University of Nairobi, Professor Margaret Hutchinson, Professor Kerubo, TVC, Professor Mula, Summer CEO, Wendy Gonzalez, and Ann Peace from Summer 2, the University of Nairobi, fraternity, guests, students, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's really a great honor to join Wendy today here at University of Nairobi. I was here sometimes back where I had an opportunity to share what we are doing at Concert Technopolis. I had a chance to do a public lecture here Later on, I had also an opportunity to come with the president of Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, here where he also did a public lecture. We've had deep collaborations with this university, and it's really a great pleasure and a deep sense of honor that I stand before you at this distinguished institution, the University of Nairobi, for what is truly a landmark occasion, the inaugural lecture delivered by the CEO of SAMA. I wish to extend my heartfelt thanks to SAMA and the University of Nairobi for inviting me to join Wendy and to participate in this very important event. This evening's lecture is not just an academic exercise, it's a timely exploration of a topic that is shaping the future of the world. AI Horizons, shaping tomorrow's workforce for a digital economy. The government, in collaboration with private sector players, development partners, and many other institutions, are put in place robust ICT infrastructure, systems, digital skilling programs for our country to harness the opportunities of the fourth industrial revolution. Under the bottom-up transformation agenda, we are keen to upscale this through the digital superhighway and the creative economy pillar. AI, and more specifically generative AI, is no longer the realm of science fiction. It's a transformational force that is already altering the fabric of our society and redefining the future. We are living in an era where AI is not just a possibility, it's our present reality, and the sooner we fully embrace this, the better prepared we are for the future and also to unlock the potential opportunities that comes with it. Recent research suggests that the generative AI has the potential to contribute between $2.6 trillion and $4.4 trillion annually to the global economy. This staggering figure highlights the enormous impact of AI technologies and are poised to cut across several industries. Generative AI, which refers to the machine learning models capable of creating new content, utilizing all the available resources and expertise, is going to drive innovation and create efficiency that was previously unimaginable. Its applications are vast, from enhancing customer service to optimizing supply chains and also personalizing products and revolutionizing new industries. Today, 65% of organizations globally have integrated generative AI into at least one of their business functions, reflecting a rapid increase in adoption. This trend underscores AI's value in boosting productivity and competitiveness on a global scale. In the realm of customer operations, for instance, generative AI is making a significant impact. It's projected that AI will account approximately 38% of global spending in this area. The rise of AI-powered chatbots, virtual assistants, and automated support systems is not just enhancing customer satisfaction, but also enabling businesses to allocate resources more effectively. On this, I am glad to inform that the government chatbots will be in place soon, which we are working with a number of partners. As we stand on the cusp of a fully digitalized economy, preparing our workforce for the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead is indeed paramount. The rise of AI and automation demands a shift in the skills and competencies required in the job market. Our education system must evolve to meet the demands by prioritizing STEM education and fostering culture of continuous learning and innovation. Strategic partnerships like the one between University of Nairobi and SAMA are indeed vital in defining our country's position in the global digital economy. The University of Nairobi, as a leading institution of higher learning, plays a very crucial role in equipping students with the skills necessary to drive this digital age. Collaborations with industry leaders like SAMA are essential to bridging the gap between academic theory and practical applications, ensuring that our graduates are well prepared for the future. I really want to thank the University of Nairobi for this initiative of welcoming SAMA for this collaboration. As Prof. you've said, is indeed a strategic collaboration, and we want to see our universities taking this approach of inviting industry and working together to shape the future. My interactions with SAMA have shown me that they are at the forefront of AI innovation and offering cutting-edge solutions like data annotations, curation, labeling that empowers businesses to harness the power of AI. I've also seen them bring global opportunities from top leading companies to here in the country and enabling our young people to be participants in some of the emerging and cutting-edge technologies. This lecture is a testament of SAMA's commitment not only to advancing AI technologies, but also to fostering meaningful discussion on the ethical, social, and complications of AI. As we leverage generative AI for economic growth and development, we must also remain mindful of its ethical implications. Issues like data privacy, algorithm bias, job displacement must be carefully considered and proactively measured. And this must be taken to ensure that AI deployment are responsive and are also equitable. I had the opportunity to discuss with Wendy, and we see the possibilities of Kenyans being participants in this AI industry, where we'll see models and algorithms developed specifically for our region and for our specific applications. It's our collective responsibility to develop and enforce ethical guidelines that will govern AI use in a manner that upholds human dignity and values. The government has a critical role to play in promoting the adoption of AI technologies, supporting digital economy, and ensuring that the benefits of AI are shared by all. As a government, we are committed to creating a policy and regulatory environment that fosters innovation while protecting the rights and interests of all citizens. We will continue to invest in research and development, encourage public-private partnership, and champion the ethical use of AI in Kenya and beyond. We will also work to ensure that new emerging jobs are attracted to this country. We want to see the growth of BPO in Kenya. We want to see IT-enabled services, IT outsourcing, software development taking place in this country for global use. We are going to do whatever it takes to ensure that the investment climate and the policy environment is conducive for attraction of such investment. In conclusion, the theme of this lecture, AI Horizon, Shaping Tomorrow's Workforce for a Digital Economy, could not be more pertinent. As we navigate the complexities of this rapidly changing world, it's crucial that we harness the power of AI to drive economic growth, enhance our quality of life, and create a more inclusive and equitable society. I commend the University of Nairobi and SAMA for their efforts in advancing a dialogue on AI and its impact on the future of work. Together, we can seize the opportunities presented by AI and work towards a brighter, more prosperous future for all. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to these very valuable discussions and also listening to Wendy Gonzalez. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Bwana PS, and it's amazing to hear the policy direction that the government of Kenya is taking and the support that you are giving for this important sector. May God bless you as you do your work. It's now my pleasure to give you just a sneak preview, just view of who our keynote speaker is today. So I'll do a citation for Wendy Gonzalez, who is the CEO of SAMA AI, just a small bit, just for you to hear. Wendy describes herself as an executive that is passionate about building high-performing, high-functioning teams that develop and scale innovative, impactful technology. She graduated from the University of Washington in 1995 with a BA, Business Administration, Accounting, and Information Systems. Wendy Gonzalez joined SAMA in 2015 as the Senior Vice President and Managing Director. She has risen through the ranks and became the CEO of the organization in October 2020. As of February 2022, Gonzalez is responsible for closing the largest round of financing for a woman-led AI infrastructure company. Together with her team of data experts, Gonzalez continues to lay the groundwork to transform the artificial intelligence industry through high-quality training data, and the removal of dangerous biases from ML algorithms. Before joining SAMA, Wendy spent 2 decades leading teams for the top organizations in the technology and consulting space, including EY, Capgemini, Cycle Theory, which was acquired by Arrow Electronics, and General Communications, Inc. Since joining SAMA, Wendy has led the company to recognition on the Forbes AI 50 list, as well as the Inc. 5,000 list for 2 years in a row. Prior to taking on her role as CEO, Gonzalez spent 5 years at SAMA as Chief Operation Officer. She is an active board member of the Leila Jannah Foundation. Leila Jannah, the founder of SAMA, was renowned for her vision of using technology to address global challenges and drive social impact. Wendy has continued this legacy, guiding SAMA through significant achievements, including a 134% revenue growth over 3 years and recognition on the Inc. 5,000 list as one of America's fastest growing private companies. Today, Wendy will deliver a keynote address or presentation on generative AI shaping tomorrow's workforce for a digital economy. Her insights will explore how generative AI is transforming the future of work and advancing the digital economy. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as we put our hands together to welcome our keynote speaker today, Ms. Wendy Gonzalez. I didn't tell you you used to stand, but you stood anyway. Asante sana.
Wow, you didn't need to stand. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. First, I'd really like to thank the Vice Chancellor for the honor of having an opportunity to speak. I was also pleased to know that I found out she went to school in the U.S. only about 90 kilometers from where I live. So that was fun to know. I'm also very thankful for the partnership from PS Tanui. We share the same objective, which is to create a very large and growing ICT economy here in Kenya. So we share the interest in creating jobs in the digital economy. So we're very appreciative of his support, and I'm very thankful to be here. So without further ado, I'll share just a few slides about how artificial intelligence is really transforming the economy. And I just want to say it's a pleasure to be here. It's been many years since I've been a student, but my oldest is actually going to university as well. So this is the group that's going to be building the technology of the future, and it truly is my honor to have an opportunity to speak. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into it. Okay, let's see. Oop. Okay, so I'm going to just do a quick discussion here on shaping tomorrow's workforce for a digital economy. So The first thing that I wanted to spend a little bit of time on is just to give a sense of magnitude of how generative AI is truly not only a generational technology, but how it's really affecting the economy. So what I'm sharing over here is that, AI, I'm sure as many of you know, has been around for many, many years, at least a couple of decades in practice. But what's happened very recently is with this new latest way of developing artificial intelligence, generative AI, we are seeing a significant growth in adoption. Already today, this year, almost $200 billion a year is spent on developing artificial intelligence technologies. What's happening very specifically is that nearly a third of that is now based on generative AI technologies. Is this? Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry? Yes. All right, thank you. Holy cow. Sorry, I'll hold it far away. That's pretty loud. Okay, because I'm relatively loud in general, so I might not even need a microphone. But what I was sharing is that generative AI is incredible because what it's doing is it's really allowing enterprises to adopt it quickly. I'm sure you as students have probably used some different foundation models. And what's happening right now is that the adoption of generative AI has tripled in the course of the last 2 years. And in the course of the next 3 years, by 2026, generative AI is going to represent 5% of all technology spend. And technology spend is the largest amount of spend that happens globally. So the market itself is $5 trillion. So generative AI is going to become a $300 billion technology investment in just the course of the next couple of years. It's really pretty incredible. And having been something to work with technology for the past couple of decades, so working in big data, embedded data systems, and all the Internet of Things, this is the fastest pace of adoption of this system by far. So I'll maybe start to just talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is very, very broad. There are many ways in which it can be developed, and this is just a note to say that artificial intelligence is really all of the different development that helps create machines that can, replicate either human vision, speaking, etc. So we talk a lot about machine learning, which is the sort of broadest sense. There's neural networks, deep learning, and generative AI is actually a subset of machine learning. Okay, let me try this again. My clicker doesn't seem to be working. All right. Sorry, okay, so now I'm going to talk just a little bit about generative AI versus foundation models. So there is a difference, okay? First, I'll talk about foundation models. So what this is machine learning that takes vast amounts of data and basically learns how to predict outcomes. So it takes all this information. I'll share a couple of applications here in a bit. What's different about generative AI models is that generative AI models are actually creating new outputs based off of the information they have learned to date. And it's quite revolutionary because it allows us to drive not only the creation of content, but allows us to really completely ingest vast sums of information. Now, from an artificial intelligence standpoint, the types of tasks associated with machine learning and foundation models are predictions. So as an example, you could take a look at all sorts of information. You could do things like detect fraud. This is a very common application used in banking and financial systems. There's classification and segmentation, which is, I'm sure everybody here has a mobile phone, right? So when you take a picture, you probably notice that you can then identify, pictures that have yourself in it, your pets, family members, etc. Well, that's an example of classification and segmentation. So your phone is able to detect images and photos and classify them. There's also object detection. So this is really about computer vision applications that can identify and recognize objects. So this is a common function of something like a self-driving car, as an example. And then last but not least, there's an analysis. On the generative AI side, it's a little bit different. The things that are happening in this technology are going to be image and video creation. So by show of hands, has anybody used, Llama, Bard, ChatGPT, right? So yeah, probably many of you have. So you can actually not only create text, you can also create images and videos. You can summarize data. So one of the things I do with my kids is I always ask them, did you do your homework with a LLM? Or did you actually do your homework, right? Because you can actually create writing and other summarization through these tools. Okay. All right, and so what does that really translate to in terms of real-world applications? So on the foundation model side, there's going to be things like autonomous vehicles. So this is cars that can drive themselves. So they can identify other vehicles, pedestrians, road signs to be able to avoid collisions and to drive themselves. There's weed and pest detection. So, I think the agriculture is the largest industry here in Kenya, right? It represents roughly 22% of the economy. So one of the amazing applications of artificial intelligence is there are now AI technologies that can use satellite or aerial imagery to automatically identify weeds. And then you could do targeted pesticide spraying. And that's incredible because it reduces the amount of use of pesticides, which is better for the environment. It helps the farmers reduce costs, and it ends up increasing crop yield because you could not spray pesticides on healthy crops, but only spray pesticides on weeds. So that's another example. And then things like quality control in manufacturing. So it's used oftentimes to identify defects in goods that are being produced. And then, of course, for generative AI, some of the real-world applications that we see are chatbots and virtual assistants, right? So that is a very common thing now where instead of calling customer service, you may end up leveraging a chatbot or virtual assistant that allows you to answer your questions or solve your problems. There are things like image generation, so and search relevance. So I'm sure many of you probably use Google, right? So if you notice, when you go into the search engine, there's now a little bar below that says AI. What that is doing is actually creating and collating all the information on your search. And then certainly last but not least, things like document creation and summarization. So you can create, presentations, documents, proposals through leveraging generative AI. So I'm going to talk a little bit about where we think this technology is going. So what has happened to date is that there are what is called unimodal models, and there are multimodal models. A unimodal model means one type of information. So many of you who might have used, like I said, ChatGPT or Llama as an example, well, that's a text model. So you can enter in some text and it will generate text content, okay? So you feed the text with annotations, you train the model, and then that model carries out something called natural language processing, which is language-based AI. And then there also are things called computer vision, which are used in applications like weed and pest control, self-driving cars. And that's taking images. You train the model on how to detect and see images, and then your model can carry out computer vision tasks. Now, what we're really seeing, which I think is quite mind-blowing, as you can see in this slide, is that we are seeing the transition from unimodal models to multimodal models. And this is going to be truly transformational. It means taking videos, text, and audio and feeding that into everything from not only understanding that text, but seeing images, driving instructions, understanding videos, right? So now you could do something like, say, I'm searching for, a plaid dress shirt. And that command is going to be able to pull up a shirt that you want because it is combining both the text and the image search relevance. Another example of this is self-driving cars. So right now, self-driving cars leverage computer vision to automatically brake, to change lanes, to read road directions. But imagine if you can combine that with a voice command that says, put on auto control, or change the temperature in my vehicle, or move on the right lane. That is a combination of a voice command in conjunction with computer vision. And this is what we're seeing happen right now today. So in developing these applications, one of the most critical things is having the right, correct data. Okay, because what happens in these models is that you need to have the right, accurate data to be able to create a quality use of your AI. Models fail when they can't detect new objects. They begin to fail if they don't understand the new data that they're interpreting. So I know these are really weird pictures, but if anybody's used an image generator, there's something that these models don't get right, and they're called hallucinations. They collect all this information together, they're creating new output, but sometimes the output that's being created is incorrect. It could be factually incorrect, it could be visually incorrect, and so we'll talk a little bit about how to address this, but you know, there's a really weird example of a double horse head. If anybody ever generated a video, you often find that they don't get the number of fingers right. That's a common challenge. For some reason, AI models get that wrong. And then, you know, even some things like this. You know, in this example, somebody put into the search prompt, can I use gasoline to cook spaghetti? Well, I think what they meant is, can I use a gasoline stove to cook spaghetti? Well, the model created a response that was incorrect. It says, you can't use gasoline to cook spaghetti faster, but you can cook with it. So let me give you a recipe for spaghetti cooked with gasoline. That's obviously incorrect and not something you would ever advise somebody to do. So how do we address these hallucinations and some of this information? We do that through humans. Humans play a very critical role in validating and training these models to ensure that they are performant, to ensure that they are both factually correct, they have the right tone, the right sentiment, and are accurate. So what we've got a picture of here is there's all sorts of data. With generative AI and the current computing power of the latest GPUs, you can process vast sums of data. All that information feeds a generative AI model. From there, you need to both ensure that there's accurate annotations for that data. The model is then built. It could be a model to do search relevance. It could be a model to sell clothes, whatever the specific application is. And then you actually have to validate that it's working properly. So why do you need human judgment? Why are humans really important in this process? Well, because humans are able to understand context, right? Not only just to identify, hey, that's a horse, or identify, this is gasoline or this is spaghetti, but to put all that information together. Because a human knows that you cook with gasoline, meaning you leverage a gasoline stove, not that you put the gasoline in your pasta, right? A human understands that context. So I'm going to show you kind of an example over here. So this is a model trained on images of parents pushing strollers, okay? So you can see there's, a parent, they're pushing a stroller. These are all very common scenes, okay? Now, there's some generative AI that created some various different images. And in this example, we prompted the model and said, is this a stroller? And the model said no. Well, that's incorrect. And the reason why it didn't recognize that it was a stroller is because it was trained on a model that said, well, only strollers can have people pushing them or parents pushing them. So it didn't recognize that, right? Now, you could have a prompt, a parent pushing a smiling baby in a stroller at a park. Incorrect. The image does not show a baby. Well, a human can validate or understands the context that there's likely a baby inside that stroller. Okay? So where does the human in the loop really play a role in this process? And I just wanted to share this a little bit. The first is that when you're leveraging a foundation model and you have a prompt, the first thing is you have to generate responses or predictions from your model. What a human does, okay, and we'll talk a little about what some of the work that we do at Sama, is that we take a moment to take a look at that response that the model has created and actually validate it for accuracy, grammar, sentiment, and tone, and identify, wow, hey, there's a hallucination there, like the example of the spaghetti and pasta cooked with a recipe of gasoline. Then that prompt is corrected. And that information goes back to feed and retrain the model so that the model itself can be more accurate. So that new data it used to retrain the model is to ensure that the AI products are being built, they're performing correctly, and that is a critical part of this, is that human validation and context. So, what does this really mean, and what does this mean for people who are looking to enter into this world of AI? Well, the first is that the artificial intelligence and the pace of that technology being adopted and advancing is at a record pace, okay? So years ago, we used to help companies doing human validation, and the kinds of things we were validating are, is there a person in this picture? Is there a dog or a cat? Or identifying simple things like drawing boxes around pedestrians. Now things are getting much, much, much more complex. AI is leveling up. As you can see, you can leverage some of these foundation models to create proposals and things of that nature, presentations and summarization of text. And so what this means is that this artificial intelligence needs to be validated with more and more domain expertise. So if you're building a product, as an example, you might need to have a degree in computer science or data science. If you are building a technology that helps agriculture, you may need a degree in chemistry or biology. And so the list goes on, because if we are having humans validate what some of these models are building, well, in this example to the right, it'd be very difficult to do that validation unless you actually knew how to code in that language, right? So can you spot an incorrect syntax within AI-generated HTML? Well, probably only if you've developed in the HTML programming language, right? If you have the knowledge to critique an AI-generated patent summary for intellectual property, well, you could probably do that if you had some knowledge of the law and patent law. So what's going to happen is that this evolution is going to drive more and more sort of domain expertise, and things are going to change. So this is kind of a view of the complexity of different artificial intelligence tasks for humans to validate, and what that is going to look like across time. So as you can see, basic things like common object identification, those are low complexity, but we are starting to see a lot of that get automated. You move into things like text sentiment analysis, document creation, object identification, all the way to things like code generation and multimodal prompt responses. The level of that complexity goes up. So we've talked about some pretty interesting applications of this technology, why the human in the loop is such a critical part of building effective, performant, and responsible AI. So now let's talk a little bit about what that impact could be in Kenya, and in particular for jobs in AI. So digital work increases formal employment opportunities. So the number of jobs that can be created and are needed in this space to build this AI technology here in Kenya is very vast. So you can see here that the total labor force in Kenya has risen 6% since 2013, with 25.5 million people available for work. So there's a lot of amazing and incredible talent here. It's really about being able to apply that to jobs. So under 5 million of these individuals have formal employment. So in other words, 4 out of 5 people are still in the informal sector. Now, doing things like human-to-loop validation, which I just shared, creates an amazing opportunity for job creation. The global business services market, or sometimes known as business process outsourcing, has reached nearly $1 trillion. Right now, the majority of that work is being done in other locations. Only 2% of this industry and that revenue is being done here in Africa. We think that the opportunity to create jobs in this sector is tremendous. It's one of the things we've been working with PS Tanui on, is that there is so much incredible talent here. There are so many jobs available. What we need to do is leapfrog Kenya into being a major player in technology, a major player both in global business services and AI in particular. What is happening right now that we all need to come together, and why we're so excited about this partnership with the University of Nairobi, is that we need to build digital skills. So it is estimated that by 2030, nearly 50% or more than half of the jobs that will be in Kenya will require some level of digital skills. Okay? That is the estimate. So being able to work with the School of Computer Science, the School of AI is absolutely critical, because these skills are going to be needed as AI and technology drives much more of the job creation. So I'll maybe just talk a little bit more before we jump into opening up with questions. But the reason to connect the dots in the presentation, the reason why we wanted to share about things like the human in the loop and the validation that's necessary, is because at SAMA, our objective is to provide entry-level technology jobs to support the development of AI. And many of you may not know this, but right here in Nairobi, some of the most leading edge technology is being built. So we're working with the world's largest retailers to build accurate e-commerce platforms and virtual fitting rooms, as an example. with companies that are building self-driving cars that operate all across the world, companies building agriculture technology to help identify the pesticides and do crop disease detection, and so many other different applications. So our interest is really in being able to create access to those entry-level jobs, as well as those the more complex artificial intelligence that requires domain expertise. So as the Vice Chancellor just shared, we started our first pilot program with the University of Nairobi, and most recently hired 13 people to support our Generative AI initiative. I hope that 13 has several zeros behind it, with many graduates for what I think will be a very fruitful partnership to come. So thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to share just a little bit more about AI, the impacts of generative AI, and I'm certainly happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Wow, that's been very, very insightful. And I think, thank you so much, Ms. Wendy, for going into technical detail as well as showing us the relevance for the job market. So I want to call upon our chair of the Department of Computing Informatics, who's going to lead the Q&A, Professor Andrew Kahonge.
Okay, thank you, Madam Gonzalez, for that very insightful lecture. Now it is question time, but before we go to the questions, I'd like us to give Madam Gonzalez one more round of applause for that very good speech. All right, I think you can take 3 questions per session, then you can answer them. Probably I can ask the first question to get us started. So I was listening to the presentation. I've also checked on your website, and of course, we are collaborating with SummerSource at the Department of Computing and Informatics. And we had discussions of machine vision being a key focus area at SummerSource, where you do the labeling, like what you have seen, the trolley is not being, seen by the AI, where the human in the loop comes and says, yes, this is a trolley. But I wanted to know if you have what you call multimodal focus, whether is it just machine vision that you're doing the preparation of AI or the labeling, or you also have other models that you want to focus on.
Thanks. Yeah, we're doing quite a bit of work with multimodal models right now. It's a little bit of a mouthful, but that means models that have both vision, video, and text. So one example of that is search relevance. So working with a couple of technology companies where you can enter in text and we'll pull back the appropriate video or image content. So for example, it might be, I'd like to see or generate a picture of, a family having dinner, as an example. And then what we are training the model on is to ensure, okay, well, are we pulling back the correct images and content? And a lot of that is used to ultimately provide things like recommendations for some of these technology companies. So when you're a user, you probably see that you get personalized recommendations for content, things of that nature. That's what this model is powering.
Okay, thank you for that response. We can get questions from the audience. Just raise up your hand, then the microphone will come to you.
Good afternoon. My name is Njonjo. I'm a recent graduate from UON Medical School. And my question is, how can we plug in as medics into this? Because as you said, it's really, it's a novel field, but it's really coming up. And I feel like its implications, they stretch into the medical fields too. So how can we plug in? Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Vincent. I'm a journalist, and Miss Wendy, thank you very much for that eye-opening session. So I have two questions. The first one is that one on multimodals, MMMs. So how do we get rid of biases whenever we try to use these AI models? For instance, whenever you try to upload an image of a black person, the model normally doesn't respond. It just says, I'm a model and I cannot answer on that. So I think that's one of the challenges we've encountered. Then the second one, this week I was reading a report by the Security and Exchange Commission, and they were reporting that most of the Fortune 500 companies are now beginning to mention generative AI and the large language models. So in their report, they say they were citing AI as more of a security factor, while other reports were mentioning it as a benefit. So in your opinion, what do you think of the adoption of generative AI? Does the risks outweigh the benefits in the process? Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
So I'll maybe take the first question, then go to the second two questions. Thanks, they're great questions. So for the first question around medical technology, there are many different applications that exist today to really support really amazing advancements in medical technology. So I'll share maybe just a couple. So surgical robots, as an example, where robots can be used to do arthroscopic and fine-tuned surgery. So we train those robots to be able to detect things like veins and other aspects. Another application that we also worked on here in Nairobi was wound detection. So you can use your mobile phone, look at an injury and say, oh, that person, has this kind of a wound, apply antiseptic. So it can give recommendations. And ultimately, most doctors, so actually my brother's a doctor, and he uses some AI technology that may give the first indication of here's what the challenge is, but then a doctor is still needed to say, hey, is that information correct, right? Is this the right treatment in the context of what we're seeing live with the patient? So there is a lot of really interesting technology, and I'll use maybe one last example, which is a really fascinating one. So one of the challenges in rural areas is that there aren't always necessarily the right, life-saving blood supplies because these are areas that are more remote, or drugs. And so there is a company that's been working in Rwanda and a few other different countries in sub-Saharan Africa, and they have unmanned drones. So they've had drones, right? That a doctor in a local village can say, I need this kind of medicine, or we've had this kind of an accident. We need type A blood. Doctor can simply put into a WhatsApp chat and say, hey, this is what I need. The people at a centralized location can put that life-saving medicine and blood into a drone. That drone flies, right? It gets to the location 30 or 40 kilometers away within an hour, and it can save lives. So there are some incredible opportunities for medical technology and AI. Okay, now switching to the next question. So I think there was two parts, one of which is that a lot of times when it comes to image search, being able to identify Black people, or really people of color in general, the models aren't very effective. Well, I think you're making kind of sort of the entire point of what I was sharing with data and biased data, right? Is that if you don't have a comprehensive set of data, what happens is models can infer, right? So if you only had a database or a data set that was built off of, for example, white people, then the ability to search for that model to create or identify people of color is going to be very limited. So that's one of the things that's really, really key is data governance. So what that means is, do you have is comprehensive and sort of error-free and bias-free set of data that you are building your model on? So that's a very important thing. And it ties, I think, also back into the best practices of AI development, which I'll kind of transition to your second question, which is around security and kind of risks and benefits. Well, what's incredibly important in developing artificial intelligence, especially in applications that could affect, the citizens, right? So think about financial systems, right? Lending. Think of things like, policing, things of that nature, where it's quite possible that these could be risky systems, that bias could be introduced. So there's a framework that is called responsible AI. And it's really about how do you develop your artificial intelligence in a way that you can ensure that that model will be both secure, protect data privacy, and work and be performant as expected. And so just to dive a little bit deeper in that, there are a few things that are important in terms of that development. And then I can talk a little bit about, risk versus benefit. But if you can build a model, in that responsible AI framework, there are huge benefits to be had. But it includes a few important things. One is data governance. So again, do you have the right data sets? Is that data secure? If you're using data to train a model, did you get permission to use that data? So one of the things that people often don't realize is that if you use one of these models, right, you go online and you sign up and you say, hey, I want to use, Llama, I want to use, ChatGPT or Bard, you're consenting to share your data, right, that the model will be trained upon. So one of the things that's very important is data privacy laws, education, and knowing not only where did the data come from, but was it secured in a way that, that there was permission, right? And we know where the data came from and people had permission to use it. The second, of course, is ensuring that your data set has the right set of information. Another component of that is ensuring that there are quality management systems so that you can constantly monitor these AI systems. Because AI systems, they change, right? There's, the world is constantly changing. New data with generative AI, new data is being created all the time. You need to have measures on which the quality of that model is checked on a regular basis. And then certainly human-centric validation, which is what I talked about a bit. And then certainly last but not least, it's about documentation. So people understand how was that AI model built. And certainly last but not least, security and privacy. So that is something that's incredibly important. Is AI in the financial sector, is it good or is it bad? Well, developed properly with the right privacy and security put in place, it can be incredibly beneficial. So, like the example is M-Pesa, right? That Vice Chancellor was discussing. That is, I can't even imagine right now anybody remembers what life was like without M-Pesa. So that productivity enhancement, being able to, have your phone to transfer to do commerce so easily, there are incredible applications in the financial sector. Again, when it's built the right way, it can be incredibly productive. Thank you for the question.
Thank you for that response. In fact, if I can just add a little bit about that question on the bias in terms of race. One of the reasons why we are really keen on this collaboration is so that we can also sort of start generating data from, from Africa, if you can call it Africa or Kenya, to try and, try and reduce these biases. And as you've seen, most of the models have been built using Western data, but there's so little about African data. Even in the medical field, some of the images that have been used to, to categorize or classify some of the diseases may not apply accurately in our context. So we need some of these partnerships, a lot in our African scene. Yes, so we can have some other 3 round of questions, please.
Hello, my name is Chris Wangalua, and I did a thesis on AI in performance of public relations, and I had to participate physically because I had a question. One of the things that I've struggled with is to get to understand, and maybe you've talked about it regarding Africanization, but in the Africanization, one of the observations we've already made, and sometimes when I look at pulled data, say on Twitter or any other platform, and you look at the numbers, you realize there is always some standard figures that always appear in majority of the AI-generated research or reports. So then my question would be, I don't know whether it's a question of frustration or comment, how do we infuse the multi-languages in Africa? Because then the tendency to use, say, English or French or Chinese, Mandarin, so be it, is there. And how do we now bring in Kiswahili? Because there's qualitative and then there's quantitative. In terms of qualitative, where you're going to do predictive or research analysis, how do you fuse in a Luya like me with terminology, people speaking in Luya or Kiswahili, or any other language for that matter? Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's I share in that frustration. I mean, one of the things that we were just talking about is that you need the right data sets. So somebody has to build, an LLM, right, that is based off of Swahili language. And I understand that there are some initiatives that are happening right now with Microsoft and some others, but the key is actually building that investment. And then to your point, it's not just about having broad Swahili, but it's each of the different intonations. And so that's the key about data. If you don't have the right data to start with, your model is not going to end up being accurate or representative. And then again, you need people who've got some expertise in those different languages to actually validate that the model outputs that are being generated are actually accurate, effective, grammatically correct, have the right pronunciation and tone. But it starts with building a model specifically for that language and having enough of the data sets. So that's actually one of the things that we have been exploring that would be really interesting is, can we build more data sets that are localized so that you can actually have better results. So it's a very fair frustration, and one of the things that we have certainly been advocating for is you got to build more local data sets. To your point exactly, because you can go online and use Cocoa or use these different open source data sets, but they're not gonna they're not gonna support something that is specific to this local context, right? Yeah, that's a great point.
Let's have the gentleman in blue and then the one at the back. Then there was another hand before I come. There's another hand here. That's the third one.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Kagema Peterson in my School of Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences. Thank you. Kagema Peterson from Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences in education sector, because that's my area. When I don't have the foundations of AI in me, but my question is how can I harness the skills of generative AI within the competence-based curriculum, that is in education sector, to help address the issue of inequality in access to education. And because we have seen now that CBC is coming in Kenyan education system, and not all learners or not all schools, not all workforce who can access, who have skills to adapt with the digital skills. How can we harness the generative AI within competence-based curriculum to help address such inequalities? Thank you.
That's just what a fantastic question. I mean, this is one of the areas where we can truly democratize access to education is through digital and e-learning. The one thing that's pretty amazing about this technology, it's kind of similar. It's like the internet, right? You now have access to something that goes way beyond, right, what's just sitting in front of you in that classroom. And so, while I'm not an ed tech expert, there are so many different technologies that are available today to really bring kind of the entire world, right to your laptop or right to your mobile phone. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity there. The other thing that I've seen a lot, and I actually was, it reminded me, I was with an educator friend the other day, and they were starting to explore, well, how is generative AI going to change the way we teach, right? Is it going to change the core math curriculum? Is it going to, it's kind of like, it used to be when I was growing up, we had to memorize multiplication tables. That is how we learned how to do basic multiplication. But then, the change in the way we were taught was, well, you have to know how to actually do that calculation. You can't just memorize it. Well, generative AI is going to have an impact on how people are thinking about education. I'm not sure that it's been nailed down to say, okay, now that we've got generative AI, are people still going to need to know how to write, excellent English? Or can they just, then use Grammarly, right? Or some of these other applications. I think what we're seeing is at the foundation of critical reasoning, deductive thinking, all those things are still going to need to apply. So for humans and for education, the core competencies to build are still going to be around that contextualization, like I said, deductive reasoning, critical reasoning. So my 2 cents is that part of it is not going to change, but how that information is delivered and how that course curriculum is delivered is absolutely going to change, because now you have all of that information at your fingertips and you can develop personalized education plans for each of your students.
Thank you. I'll take the mic to the next person. That's
Hello.
a very good area, because at the university right now we are really grappling with that thing of how to teach and how to examine, especially in the presence of AI. Do you have face-to-face exams?
You need some of that audit software to see if it was built by an LLM.
Exactly.
Hello, my name is Dennis. I'm working in generative AI when it comes to advertisement. And I have this specific question. So you talked about multi-model situation. You find when it comes to images, Midjourney, Leonardo, Da Vinci, it's perfect. When it comes to video, you have Runway, you have Generation 3. When it comes to the other aspects, you have these. But now, talking about the multi-model integration, is it a collaboration that's happening in the Western Hemisphere or happening here in Nairobi also? Because you find there are people who, when they are dealing with generative AI for specific clientele, they have to do LoRa training, of which not many people have the expertise. And are they collaborated into the whole integration of this multi-model situation? And our general question is, to you, is AI a product or a feature?
That's such an interesting question. I mean, I think it can be both. I hope I'll explain why I think it's certainly both. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, there are all these different AI tools, right, that can be used to build, right? So your Midjourney, that's a product, of course, but you can use it to build your own, products as well. Is it a feature? Well, we're seeing a lot of enterprises develop it as a feature as well. So, for example, you have a software, for example, and say it's a trouble ticketing system. Well, before AI, people would need to go and piece together, how do you, silly example, how do I replace the printer ink in my printer? Well, a human would go, they would look up in their internet, they would find the instructions, right? They would bring it back and say, this is how you do it. Well, now you can leverage, AI can be a feature to where you're using generative AI to pull back all of that information, distill and say, hey, there are 3 or 4 ways in which you could do this. What kind, depending on what your printer cartridge type is. So what we're seeing is AI is being used, and generative AI as an example is being used to drive better customer experiences, to surface the data and the recommendations and information in a more user-friendly way, because the user experiences in regular language, right? And so it really creates a much better user experience. We're also seeing it drive quite a bit of automation, because you can now use and harness all of this information and summarize it so much more efficiently, right? Than a human or even old machine learning methods to put that together. And then, of course, we're seeing products. I mean, there is so many different technology products. I was just mentioning, well, of course, you've got these foundation models where, I literally ask my kids, I'm like, let me see your report, and did you write it? Because I'm going to be able to tell if a model wrote it or not. But the reality is now they have softwares that actually check to see, does this look like a model has written, this paper? So absolutely, it can be a product at the enterprise level. Besides the products being, as AI as a product to develop other products, we see it quite a bit as a feature to enhance the user experience, whether it's personalization, like you said, search relevance, e-commerce, and advertising is where we see it a lot, to where you are doing matching between preferences, and buying patterns as a consumer. Then, the AI is leveraged that it can surface up the right kinds of recommendations to, sell you things, as an example.
Thank you. My name is Finuchet Alba. I'm a graduate of International Relations and Diplomacy. And thank you, ma'am, for your presentation. I just need to quote out some of the things that kind of stuck out for me. You say that models fail where they can't adapt to edge cases. And then humans play a critical role in the training and validating of models. So coming from the cybersecurity perspective, what are some of the security measures put in place to protect or rather safeguard the integrity of the, language models? To be specific, when my brother was talking there about robotics in the medical industry, and so technology is growing, and so even hackers, unethical hackers, are also like finding new ways to be able to penetrate through, various places that they want to attack. So my question is just more of like, what are some of these security measures or some of the contingency plans that are put in place if it fails? Because hackers are also, really working out so much, and so.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually just some of the what just happened. Some news that just happened in the U.S. is that they believe some of the presidential campaigns that are upcoming in the U.S. were hacked, right, by hackers. So I mean, it's a very real threat. Cybersecurity is one of the largest growing industries, and in terms of broad applications like financial systems, aviation, things that could affect the public, cybersecurity is a top concern. So it's a very important set of technologies, and ultimately, at the end of the day, it's going to be incredibly important as AI is adopted and deployed that those applications that can have effect on the public, right? So, financial systems, like I said, whether it's aviation, policing, et cetera, it's incredibly critical that they have the right data security protections associated with it. So there are many different softwares out there, everything from, threat detection, and there's something that's being used in as well in generative AI. It's called adversarial testing, where you're simulating basically violations of policy or other things to see if you can actually get the model to break or to spit out the incorrect result. So there are different methods, both in terms of the development of AI to ensure that those edge cases, that your model can stay performant. So adversarial testing and red teaming is a common method. And then of course there's the security systems themselves to ensure that that you can do things like threat detection, and while I'm certainly not an expert in cybersecurity, we do have some in our company that I'm sure would be happy to speak about the different technologies that we use to ensure that we can protect our data.
Thank you very much. My name is John Orindi, Director of Corporate Affairs at the University of Nairobi. My question is, I want to tap your thought on something. On your graph, the visual presentation you made, the adoption of AI, you indicated that the industry is now worth around 5 trillion US dollars. And being here at the university, we have researchers here, we have students who are looking at different opportunities to tap on into the industry. From your point of view, which area would you advise the university researchers and lecturers to focus on to create more impact? And which opportunities would you recommend for students of the University of Nairobi to focus on so that they can take advantage of the emerging opportunities in the industry?
I think there are a couple of ways. So as we were just talking, between medical technology, agriculture, et cetera, I mean, AI will be pervasive in every single industry. Okay, it's happening because it's creating more intelligence. It's going to happen. And so if you're in the field of medicine or agriculture, there are ways in which you can learn and leverage artificial intelligence in your specific domain. So I think that's very important. The other component of it is that we need people to build AI. So the gentleman earlier who was talking about Swahili language models and with the right different languages, we need people who can build those models too. So definitely encourage computer science, data science are going to be critical skills because we need to build AI here, right? Here locally, that is the best possible solution. So one of the things that we get really excited about is we create entry-level job opportunities in AI, and that AI is built here. Now, the more technical skills that can be built, then you've got the engineers who are going to build those next platforms, which will be really incredible. So I think you can go both ways, right? If you are going down the medical field, there are so many technologies in which AI can, so many applications of AI in medicine. The other thing is you could also build those technologies with computer science, data science degrees as well. Sure.
Hello, my name is Dr. Edna Milva from University. I have one question concerning LLMs. When we are trying to build local transformers to have Gen AI, which is locally built, the main challenge, especially, is lack of GPUs, and also the power, electricity and nuclear power, not the power that's required to run these GPUs. So my question is, at SAMA, do you have LLMs or transformers which are available to public or to researchers? And if they are there, can we access and use it, especially to build APIs for research, especially for master students and postgraduate students in general?
What an amazing question. And by the way, I mean, I agree. We see that all the time. In fact, many of our clients, they are now taking an ROI-driven approach towards AI because the scarcity of GPUs and cloud computing, it's just really, really expensive. And to your point, these machines that you need to build these models is like, think of a small sedan versus a Ferrari, right? What you need is you need those Ferrari machines, right? Those race cars. So first off, I would say that your suggestion is really amazing. So I'd actually ask my colleague and Peace here, and then we've got some of our other leaders here, like Sally. She has been in our product team and run quality assurance for us. Let's take a look into that. We do run LLMs. We do have a machine learning team. We have teams that I would love to build in Kenya. So we have some software engineers here. We also have them in Montreal, Canada, in San Jose, and for quite some time we have been looking for opportunities to mentor. And it actually has come up before, which is, can you make a lab or something available? Because to your point, these are really scarce resources. We don't now, but I think it's a really interesting thing to take a look at. So we would gladly explore that as an opportunity, because I think this is kind of exactly why we're here, is we would love an opportunity to both engage with the students, but ultimately, like I said, we need more engineers and we need more skills. We can continue to build AI right here locally. Yeah, thank you for that. And good luck with your studies.
Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. I'm going to ask this question also on behalf of my colleagues. My name is Tim Kamano. I'm in Data Science Division, Department of Mathematics. And I wanted to ask about, just follow through with what has been also asked by the other who came before me. So, one of the things of dealing with bias in generative AI and generally machine learning is to have use cases and also to develop the models here. That also sorts the element of how we share in the cake, in the 5 trillion, yeah? So, and there also high capacity, as you acknowledge, of skilled students, especially here at the University of Nairobi, to do exactly that. But that requires data, and as you correctly say, these data governance issues that need to be done. At the same time, it's even if we have data governance issues, there are some problems that require curation of our own data set. For instance, the driverless cars that are trained elsewhere cannot work here. I'm sure you've noticed the way we cross the road and there are objects almost everywhere from anywhere. Yeah? So we require our own solutions somehow. And that's why we need to build the models here. So my question, there are 2 or 3 actually, including that. do you have any framework for supporting data curation for local use cases in this collaboration, which we are very glad to have? And then, in which way can you, as SAMA, support in capacity building within the collaborative framework with the University of Nairobi? In light of the quite exciting thing that the Vice Chancellor mentioned, the Nairobi School of AI, and the fact that we'll be rolling out AI across not only the university, but across the country. Lastly, will you have, and this links to also a question, to run these models you need high capacity computational resources, like GPUs, and probably you also need support for probably looking at a question on training LLMs for local African languages. Because whoever does that actually is entitled to the cake eventually. So, yeah, I think I covered that. Thanks.
I think there were a couple of questions or thoughts in there. The first was related to data curation. In our software platform, we have data curation. So that basically allows us to, through automation, to be able to identify what's sitting in your data, right? And that becomes very important for a lot of applications. So, for example, you use self-driving cars as a perfect example. Well, if you build a self-driving car off of data sets in the US, well, you're going to have cars on the other side of the road, right? You're going to have different looking road signs. You won't have the same maybe kinds of objects or lane suggestions, as we like to joke, right? It all looks a little bit different. So to your point, when people are building models, the curation is a very important aspect, because if your model, for example, is not performing well because on cars that drive on the left side of the road, you need to be able to look at your data set and say, hey, do I have any examples of that? Or if your model's not performing very well in the evening, or if your model's not performing for specific pedestrians and vulnerable road users, that curation software is what helps us identify and work with our clients to say, hey, this is where you need more data. This is where you need to fine-tune your model. So yes, curation is, I think, an important part of effectively developing and improving model performance. And to your point, it's also about really being very specific about the use case you're trying to build. So LLMs, of course, are general AI, right? Basically, so they're so broad, which is why that human validation context and ensuring there are the right data sources is critical, because you're not likely to find great examples of Swahili as an example on the internet, right? So you need those different data sets. So definitely agree, I think, with everything you're saying and the scarcity of resources. In terms of how we can partner, well, I would probably go back to to the earlier point, which is we're happy to take a look at opportunities for collaboration. We do, of course, leverage GPUs and ML in our company, so there could be some lab opportunities there. The other thing I would say is that we have many different experienced engineers, many of which who really would love the opportunity to mentor. In fact, one of my colleagues here, Joshua, has worked with some of our different engineers to build some mentoring programs. So certainly something we're happy to look into. So I'm not sure if I answered all of the questions, but the other thing I thought of is if we do a lab, we have one option could be to take a look at leveraging the software for things like curation. So anyhow, I think there are a few different ideas we could explore.
Okay, thank you very much. I can see there's just one more burning question. Let's just have this one. I can see, of course, a lot of interest. We can always continue this conversation because we are starting the collaboration. Our Department of Computing and also Mathematics. We also have the Vice President for the global team here with us. That's Peace. We can always take your questions. But let's just have one last question from that gentleman. Yes, thank you.
Yes, good evening. My name is Moravino Joseph. I'm a media consultant. My question goes to Madam Wendy. It concerns the AI hallucination, whereby you find most of the time, if you ask some certain questions, it gives you a vague response. What happens to people who are adopting AI? At the moment, the rate is very high. Like the graph is saying, it's 72%. What happens to you who are trying to utilize these AI, LLMs and models, and they get this information that is not reliable? How are they going to cope with that?
It's a fantastic question. I couldn't agree more. This is one of the reasons why when I talked about the responsible AI development framework, it's critical that not only is it documented how the AI model is built, but with which data and how you're managing quality assurance. Because to your point, those hallucinations occur very regularly. I guarantee you could go onto your phone right now and create a hallucination if you wanted to. And that's one of the things that's really also important about education. So one of the things that I spent some time talking to policymakers about is that AI doesn't really have a warning label, to your point, right? Even a hairdryer has a warning label, right? A hairdryer says, don't plug this in next to water or else you'll get electrocuted. Well, that is one of the things that becomes, I think, incredibly important about building trust in AI systems is not only sort of having a warning label for what you can use the AI for and what it's not capable of, but having more transparency in how the AI is built. So there's, I think, a lot of discussion that is happening right now where, there are open source models. And I mean, if you're looking at the leaderboards, right, the open source models don't always score quite as high, but they're documented. You know what has gone in, you understand the business rules. And so there are, I think, a number of questions with some of these closed models that say, hey, we should be clear about saying what it should be used for and what it shouldn't be used for, because to your point, if somebody's, relying on that AI to give it a performant answer and taking action, there is a danger. So one is, I think, education awareness about transparent and explainable AI. And then the other is how you develop the AI, which is, a lot of what we do at Sama, which is, both having the platform, but that human context to be able to, identify and retrain models that have hallucinations, right? So when we see, a strange answer or the incorrect, it's factually incorrect or otherwise, one of the reasons we're very excited about partnering with the University of Nairobi, not just for the technical skills, data science, computer science, et cetera, but also domains. Because, if you're, if the LLM you're using, you have some questions about, for example, plants, well, it's going to be very difficult for somebody who isn't a botanist, who doesn't understand plants, to help validate whether or not that prompt, that response to the prompt is correct. So really, at the end of the day, so many different domain knowledge are necessary to help validate these general knowledge models. So it's a great point. I think it's a combination of education and ensuring that models are developed in the right way, because they don't have warning labels, right?
Okay, thank you so much, Wendy. So let's give her a round of applause as we finish the session.
Thank you very much for a very engaging Q&A session. We really appreciate your insights and the knowledge that you've shared with us. So I'll kindly request the university leadership, led by the Acting Vice Chancellor, the DVC, the Dean, and Peace, to come for a photo op. And then after that, I'll call on Professor Mula to give us a vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes, good evening, our guests, PS ICT, Engineer Tanui, our Acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Hutchinson, our guest, Wendy, our Dean, Professor Kerubo, and of course, our, I can say our host, Professor Kahonge, our media fraternity, our valuable Department of Computing and Informatics, our students, and invited guests. Thank you very much for making this function valuable. And of course, thank you very much for bringing the discourse on AI to the public. And thank you most because for most of us and the university fraternity, AI has previously been seen as an elitist, you can say maybe subject or matter. And there was a time it was rumored that our Department of Informatics teaches it only at night. So thank you for making it possible to hear about it during daytime. And I would also like to thank the PS, Engineer Tanui, for inviting the University of Nairobi and our partners that we partner on this journey and maybe take the discourse and AI to town halls and maybe using our partnership with the media to make it possible for the larger Kenyan community to embrace AI and incorporate it in their everyday life. I would also, of course, like to thank everyone else who has brought up the issue of data privacy, that we should take into account this and, of course, enlighten the public about what AI means basically for their data, whether it is their names, whether it is their languages, and so on. Thank you also for enlightening and informing the public that AI creates more opportunities, especially in the traditional disciplines, which people were fearing might be in danger. There are apparently more opportunities in the traditional translation of languages, which will make our native languages be mainstreamed. Of course, there are opportunities, as you have heard, in the traditional subjects like geography, which now that the PS has left during our town hall meeting and maybe with the ministry, to try and then bring about policy issues which will make it possible to derive livelihood from AI and related technologies. I would also maybe take the opportunity to tell you that the University of Nairobi, together with the other African engineering universities and the African community at large. I think they are going to hold an AI conference in Rwanda beginning of October, which will make it possible for the African continent to take a common position on AI. I would like to invite all of you, or those of you who have suggestions of where the University of Nairobi and its partners, and of course Kenya, should go, to reach out to the PS so that you can make your views, so that when they are in Rwanda, they can then basically represent your position and what you would like to see in AI moving forward. So I thank you very much for making this session possible, and I am very grateful to Professor Kahonge for taking this initiative, and of course thank Gonzalez Wendy that we are partnering with your organization to make this journey possible. I personally look forward to it, and I am very grateful. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Sorry, I'm requesting the Vice President, our Chief Guest, and the VC to come back for one media opportunity, for the media specific one, for 4, a picture for 4. Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We have come to the end of our public lecture. We have refreshments down here. You are welcome.